Hi, everyone. Welcome to the RUN panel, also known as How Why Developers Should Run to Organize Their Residents, Building Power for Affordable Housing, even in a Pandemic. I will be your moderator today. My name is Tori Truscheit. I'm the organizing director of the Residents United Network here at Housing California. So excited to have you all here. To talk about RUN. I'll do a little bit of an introduction. We've got some fabulous panelists from all pieces of the RUN universe. But first I want to kind of give you a sense of what to expect today in this conversation, and also give you a little bit of a sense of what RUN is. And we're going to do a little poll in a second so you can share what is bringing you here as well. So let's start off with a little bit of what's going to happen today. So over the course of the next hour and 15 minutes, you are going to get some stories from our resident organizing work, both some stories from the past and cool stuff that has happened and as we've built power since 2014, and also some stories from the recent past during the last 6 months of a pandemic, because I'm sure what many of you are wondering is, how do we do this exactly? And what is it that we do? So you'll get a sense of that. You'll also have a bunch of different opportunities to connect with us. Depending on where you live in California, there is probably someone who's representing the Residents United Network in your area. And so you can leave this conversation with real tools to be able to follow up and make RUN part of what you do. So first I want to do a little poll. Even before we introduce everybody. This is, okay, the poll is popping up. We just kind of want to see who's in the room to see if you are staff of a developer, a resident of affordable housing, or something else. So go ahead and where you're from in California, maybe some of you are from somewhere else, and how many current members of RUN we have in the audience, and then people who are just interested in learning. So go ahead and take the poll if you can, if it is popping up on your screen. Yeah, there's 3 questions in the poll. And hello to everybody who's already saying hello in the chat box as we do this. Feel free, please, to ask questions, say hello, cheer people on in the chat box. And then if you have questions, we'll take questions in the last 10 minutes. And so you can add your questions in the Q&A box that's at the bottom of your screen. All right. Just a little bit longer for the poll. If you haven't yet answered, please click your buttons so we can see who's here. And then we're going to all get a chance to see that. Okay. So let's go ahead and close up the poll. We'll get to see who's in the room. All right. So what do we got? It looks like we've got some developer staff, some residents of affordable housing, mostly people who are neither of those things, okay? We've got a ton of Bay Area representation, 40% Bay Area. We've got some folks from San Diego, LA, a little Orange County, a little Central Valley, and a little bit of Sacramento, and a little from other regions. Amazing. We've got some members of RUN. Ooh, yeah, and a lot of people who are interested in learning about RUN for your organization, and some people from partners as well. All right, well, welcome all of you, no matter where you're coming from. So excited to have you here. I just want to give you a very brief summary of what RUN is. We run because we believe that everybody deserves a safe and affordable place to call home. We are a movement of affordable housing residents and people with lived experience of homelessness, advocating in coalition with nonprofit affordable housing developers and our other allies to make that happen, to make bold policy solutions happen in Sacramento on a state level to end the housing affordability and homelessness crisis in California. So all of our work is on the state level. We have a ton of members who live in affordable housing developments throughout the state of California, and we operate in 7 regions, which is why you saw those 7 choices in the poll. We are in, starting from the bottom, San Diego, Los Angeles, Orange County, the Inland Empire, the San Joaquin Valley, Sacramento, and the Bay Area. So if you are in one of those places, you very well may have a run meeting coming up in the next month that you can join, or that you can send your friends or your residents to. So part of why Run exists is because we believe, and I hope that probably many of you in the audience believe too, that people who have real experience with housing instability and homelessness need to be part of the conversation for how to change and fix that crisis in California. That a lot of times legislators and people in power, are making decisions right and left without actually consulting the people who are dealing with housing affordability, who are struggling to pay rent, right? And so we know also that people who live in affordable housing understand very deeply why affordable housing is important, to continue to advocate for more of that for their friends and neighbors and everybody else who lives in our cities who's struggling. So that's what Run does. And I'm gonna stop talking about it in just a second, and instead you're gonna get to see a video, which I hope that our tech team can pull up in just a second. Here we go.
I live in West Oakland, and I walk through it every day. My vision is that everybody have a place to lay their head.
It is something that everybody deserves, to live in dignity and with a clean, safe environment.
To me, like, home is stability, home is health and wellness, home is everything to a person.
I really envision a California where we can really focus on our community and being healthy, and also being able to afford a space that is, for our family.
A sense of belonging, that's what it's all about.
My name is Victorious Verna. I am a leader in the housing justice movement because everyone in America deserves a home.
Run came as a platform for residents to go and fight for themselves and make this movement stronger.
It's for everyone. That's one of the things I like about Run. It's to help a person that works but can't really afford to live. So they make that affordable housing so they can work, live, and eat too. And that's what I like about it. It's a big concept.
It's always been a part of me. Like, I want to help the community, just didn't know how.
I live in affordable housing. I have affordable housing. And because I live in it, why not fight for other people that don't have it right now?
I wasn't always like I am, and somebody reached down and helped me.
As I was coming up, I wasn't interested in advocating. So, I was just working, trying to survive. Working with Run made me realize that I can help other people and myself at the same time.
And then getting involved with Run, and now in the position of being a leader, is still stuck in me.
So if you got a story to tell, speak up.
Because it's all about change and growth. And I just love it, I just love it.
I had to do a testimony for a bill, and that's something that I've never done. And you just start growing, and growing as a leader is the best thing, I think.
All the work that we do, it's, we bring it back to our children, bring it back to what kind of a community we want to see.
It's really changed my life. It's something that I would have never thought I would do.
Building power for my community means people, lots of people, because there's people power.
It's fun to me to go in, talk to legislators, assembly people about whatever bill that we're backing.
I'm a team leader. I'm got a group of my own, and I got to prepare them, and you know that's the exciting part. And then put them in the position to lead, cause I'm gonna step back and let them. I'm gonna prep them, but I'm just gonna step back and coach them on. Yeah, that's right. You're doing a good job, you know.
When I sit down and advocate for Allah, I know that they really are interested in listening to me as a resident.
I've seen a lot of changes since I started to run. And once we won Prop 1 and Prop 2, I mean, it was amazing to me, you know, because I've really never stood behind nothing that big and then win. It motivated me to talk to other people, you know. It motivated me to bring them in to run if I can get them in. And if not, just to let them know that we out there trying our best to change the housing crisis that we're under.
I always tell my residents that all these bills were made by people and you are the people, so that we're looking for the people power. That's how I try to convince them that if you get involved, we as people, we as the power can change things, and they want to come and do their own fights.
I think we're more organized now. I'm excited.
I'm not gonna stop doing what I have to do to try to help.
But the good thing is that we have panelists who are here who are really excited to talk about what Run does. Okay, so I'm gonna introduce them just a little bit, and then we're gonna you're gonna hear from each of them in turn. Okay, so first I want to bring up Maria Hernandez from Poway in San Diego County, who has been a Run member since its original founding back at the end of 2013.
Okay. Oh, hello.
There she is.
There I am. Okay. Hello.
Hold on, Maria. I'm going to say hello to you.
Okay.
Also going to introduce Gloria, and then I'm going to introduce Tom, and then I'm going to introduce Alex, and then we'll go back to you. Okay.
Okay.
Great. So, thank you, Maria, an original founding member of the Residency United Network. We also have coming up, we've got Gloria Bruce, who's the executive director at the East Bay Housing Organizations, also known as EBHO in Oakland.
Hey, Tori. So glad to be here.
Welcome. Then coming up next, we've got Tom Collishaw, who is the president and CEO of Self-Help Enterprises, a developer in the Central Valley, representing all of our rural developers and residents. Hey, Tom.
Hi, Tori.
Welcome. And then last but definitely not least, we've got Alexandra Alvarado, who is the community organizing manager at Mutual Housing in Sacramento, and one of our, what's called our ROCs, our regional organizing coordinators.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to this beautiful panel. You're gonna get a chance to hear a lot more from them today, but we're gonna redirect it back to, Maria. Maria, I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about how Run has affected your life, but just to introduce you a little bit more.
Okay.
Maria was the recipient, she's lived in affordable housing since 2007 and was the recipient of the San Diego Housing Federation's Ruby Award in 2016, honoring the best people, projects, and achievements in affordable housing. And as a Run member since way back in the day, since our very founding, she's spoken to the media, she's advocated locally and in Sacramento, and built a strong relationship with her assembly member, which we'll hear about in just a little bit. And I also, and we'll hear a little bit more about how her work in Run has inspired her in her life. So Maria, I guess my first question for you is to tell us a little bit about how Run has affected your life.
Okay. Hello. Run has affected my life Like I said, I'm a run leader. I'm a resident of affordable housing. I'm a student at Miramar College, majoring in political science, which has a lot to do with run. When run started, it was small. There wasn't a lot of us. Over the years, we've grown very big. Now we're in a lot more places in California than we were in the beginning. It's amazing to see how run has grown, and I'm glad to be part of it because it's going to make a difference, and it might not happen today, but it will happen soon. I'll tell you a story about something that happened at Run Lobby Day in Sacramento when I met my assembly member, Brian Manchime. We were walking down a hallway in the Capitol. Brian's short, tiny, little guy. And he came out of a room and I was like, oh, there's Brian Manchime. And somebody was like, no, that's not Brian. And I was like, no, that's Brian Manchime. And they're like, no, it's not. So I was like, whatever. And I just darted down the hallway, running after this poor man. And I'm screaming, Brian, Brian. And he's like, he's walking faster. So I finally catch up to him. And I'm out of breath. I'm sweating because it's hot in the Capitol building. And I'm just like, hi, my name is Maria Hernandez. And I'm here for affordable housing. And I'm a constituent of yours from Poway. And he's like, he looked like a deer in headlights. Because it was just like, okay, what is this woman? Who is this woman? And what is she doing here? But anyway, so we got to talk a little bit. He stopped, took pictures with us that were there. After that, we went and met other assembly members and senators, but we mostly met with their staff, their, their interns, not really them, but our last person to meet with was Brian Manchime that day. And when we got to Brian's office, I thought, okay, we're just gonna sit down with this lady right here. But no, he actually welcomed us into his office. He sat down with us. He talked with us. It was really nice, he listened to us. We told our stories. But after that situation, me and Brian, we got a rapport. We became friends. So it's like anytime Run needed to see somebody, if it was here in Poway or San Diego, I should say, he would send his chief of staff, which was Lance Whitman, and me and Lance grew a friendship. So like with Brian and Lance, anytime I need something, we need to set up a meeting. Oh, okay, right away. Like this last time we had to set up a Zoom meeting and I couldn't get a hold of anybody in his office. So I was able to call Lance and was like, okay, Lance, I can't get a hold of anybody. Oh, okay, well, this person's going to contact you. So it was right away that person contacted me and we were able to set up a meeting.
Yeah, and that's extra important, as we'll talk about a little bit later. So we can't meet in live and in person, right?
Yes.
So Maria, can you tell us a little bit about how Run affected you going back to school?
Well, one day I was in Sacramento. I was there for second lobby day. I was there. And I was there and they asked me I came a day early and they asked me to be a run leader, and take my own group into this Capitol. And that was like, wow, they have that much confidence in me. They have that much, I have that much support. And I just felt weird, because it's like, I've never been asked to do something like that. So I did it and we had a meeting and right after our meeting, we went back to the hotel and I was with one of our old Run leaders, Emily Cox, who's no longer with us, but she was with me. She's from San Diego. And I was like, I need to do something. I need to make a difference. I need to be, one of these assembly members or something to make a difference for affordable housing. And I go, I need to go back to school. And Emily's like, well, what about political science? And I was like, okay, I guess, I don't know. So when I got back home, I looked into it. And at the time I have a daughter, but she was young, and I didn't have transportation, but then I was able to get a car. I mean, it was God or something, because it was like I was able to get a car. I was able to pay off a student loan I had out in the past. and I was able to go back to school, which is not too far from my house. And I've been there for 3 years. So thanks to Run, I went back to school and became a political science major.
Yeah, and maybe you're gonna run for office too, right?
Yes, I'm thinking of running for city council here in Poway because there's a lot of NIMBYs here, and I would be the first woman of color who would be on their city council. You know, first person of affordable housing, first person. You know, a lot of first things.
Yeah, we will support your campaign whenever that happens, Maria.
Thank you so much.
Room. So thanks so much, Maria. You got a chance to hear a little bit about her. You're gonna hear more from her later, but I wanna pass this off now to Gloria Bruce. Let me tell you a little bit about her if you haven't met her yet. As I said, she is the executive director of EBHO, East Bay Housing Organizations, which is the leading advocacy coalition promoting affordable housing in Alameda and Contra Costa counties. East Bay represent. She has many years of experience in the justice world. So Gloria, can you tell us a little bit about like the impact that resident organizing can have?
I definitely can, Tori. I don't know if I can bring any more eloquence or excitement than Maria just did. Is the best testimony that we could possibly get, but I'll try to get to it from the organizational side. And I'm going to try to take Tori is an organizer through and through, as you can see by all the love that she is getting in the chat. And the video didn't work, and she was just like, I'm going to make it work. No, I'm not. I'm going to go forward because that's what we do. So I'm going to do what Tori is modeling and take up, she said, take up the energy 30% for this unconference. That I'm speaking into the void. There may be hundreds of you, there may be thousands of you, or tens of thousands. I'm kidding. There's actually 188. I can see that. But we want to bring that energy to you so you can be sold on this. And you know, my organization EBHO, we've been doing organizing for well over 10 years. Something our my predecessor Amy Fisher really prioritized. Like, let's do this in a better and transformative way, not just a transactional way. And it really is getting at that. I think you can see just from all the love in the chat alone and the number of exclamation points in the chat alone that there is a different sort of electricity and energy that comes from doing this work. Now, don't get me wrong. I love hanging with people who have daily experiences that are similar to mine. I am so sad that I can't be hanging out with all you housing nerds in person right now. But I have to say there is a different kind of charge that comes from when you witness things like Run's session or EBHO's Leadership Academy that we run every year under the leadership of our lead organizer, Dolores Tejada. When I witness those sessions and I see real connections being made, not just across race, but across class, across daily experience, it's electric, it's magic, and it doesn't happen all the time. And it's not easy, and it takes years of relationship building, but it really, I still believe that it has the potential to break down this dichotomy we have in our world of the people with the policy or the practitioner expertise and the people with the lived experience, as if those are two separate spheres, and we don't all have both. Because we do. And so I think when you have a program like Run or our resident and community organizing program that has not just a transfer of knowledge, but an actual real exchange of mutual learning, when you have people who are formerly incarcerated sitting next to people who have never been inside a prison being like, you need to see me as a person, things like that. I mean, it's really electrifying. And the short example, I mean, I have so many, but the short example I'm going to give is when we were able to bring a lot of our residents, including some you saw in the video, shout out to Willie, shout out to Ms. Jerry. We brought both affordable housing residents and people from the other parts of the affordable housing world together to win an affordable housing bond in 2016, Measure A1. And I wish I had gotten my tech together to show you a screen, because the creativity that came out of that, we had a rally where our residents turned a giant refrigerator box into a bottle of A1 steak sauce for the name of the measure. And they danced around it at a rally, and it was awesome. And it was this time when we had people from all walks of life pushing for the same goal, more affordable housing. And often I get the question of, well, wait, Gloria, people who already live in affordable housing, they want to keep organizing for something they already have. And I'm like, well, first of all, these are some of the most generous in spirit, hardworking people I've ever met. And secondly, of course, they want more people to have what they have. For one thing, their friends, their loved ones, their fellow congregants, their neighbors do not have that yet because there's so not enough. So how can we expand it so it doesn't feel like winning the lottery? And it doesn't mean that affordable housing is perfect, and it doesn't mean everything that happens is perfect, but I think there's magic that happens when we can have those conversations for sure. So and then the last thing I'll say is, like, I gave this example from 2016, but we've kept it going. We came out again in 2018 elections and on the legislative session, going up to Sacramento with Run. 2019, when things got a little rough, we have lost members, and the community that we have built has been able to sustain people, so that as we're in this incredibly difficult time of 2020, our RCOP community, our Run community, they are checking on each other. They're holding each other up in these times. So much to do, so difficult, but I'm so glad we're doing it.
Thank you, Gloria. So just to paint the picture for you a little bit, Run is a program of Housing California. We're based in Sacramento. Gloria, representing EBHO, is one arm in Oakland, is like the Oakland hub for Run in the East Bay and in the Bay Area. Maria is then we also have developers who Gloria works with in the East Bay. We're gonna hear from one of those developers in another region in just a second. Then we have organizers who are organizing residents alongside residents, and we have residents, of course, like you just heard from Maria. So it's a little web we weave across this state. We're gonna hear next from one of those developers, Tom, the CEO of Self-Help Enterprises, and I think the cool and interesting thing that you're going to hear about, and sometimes the complicated thing about how Run works, is that we organize residents of affordable housing through their landlords, essentially. And that is as weird and powerful and interesting as you might imagine. And I think Tom has a lot of firsthand experience with that. Self-Help Enterprises has been working all across the Central Valley. And it's the oldest and largest self-help housing organization in the country, having assisted 6,100 families in the construction of their own homes and developed 1,300 units of affordable rental housing, which it operates. So I want to ask Tom to share a little bit about your journey as someone who might not have really thought about resident organizing or thought it was for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I am the token developer in this group. You know, I've been doing this personally for about 40 years. And for those of us who have been doing affordable housing for that long and managed and developed rental housing properties, we tend to have some experience with things like tenant councils, and the old HUD projects would require that you had residents on a board. And frankly, when I first heard about Run, I immediately thought about some not so great experiences with some of those things. But when I heard more about it and more about what the goals were of Run and resident organizing around Run, I really started to think about this as being mission aligned with what our organization is about. Our mission is to work together to build and sustain healthy homes and communities. We are about providing opportunities for folks, not just great housing opportunities and affordable housing opportunities, but opportunities and connecting services to people that give them other opportunities to improve their lives. We're about leadership development. And we actually have programs that do that. So when I began to start thinking about it in those terms, and we started to take our first steps into the Run program, our resident services folks really got turned on by it virtually immediately. One of the things about our own portfolio is that we have a lot of rural projects that are in remote areas, and we have found this a tremendous way to both give people opportunities to be involved in the political process, but also to be involved with each other and actually meet and connect with peers from other affordable housing properties. And you know, when it comes right down to it, we see Run Now as just an essential part of what we are about as an affordable housing developer. It's one of the things that really make us different as mission-oriented affordable housing developers. We care about our members. I'm going to talk a little bit later about how we're connecting with people during the pandemic. And then in just a very selfish aspect of things, most affordable housing developers have stood alone in front of angry mobs of people at a city council meeting to get a housing project approved. And who better to bring with you, to be with you at those, than people who have the lived experience of being in affordable housing and knowing what benefit that has been. So that is a selfish reason to get involved. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. And last but not least, I want to introduce Alex Alvarado, who every time I talk to her says something that blows my mind. She's one of our rocks. We have 7 rocks in each of our regions across the country who's responsible for bringing developers, residents, resident service coordinators together to build Run in that region. And Alex is in kind of a unique role because she actually works for a developer at Mutual Housing. And so she's sort of the link between like someone like Tom and someone and our residents like Maria and all the other fabulous Run leaders who are getting shouted out in the comments as well. So Alex, I wanted, and also I will also say, like, Alex is like a true community organizer. Like, she has those skills, and she's got really cool stuff to share about what it's been like in the last several months in a minute as well. But I wanted to ask you, Alex, can you maybe just talk a little bit about how we do this resident organizing?
We gather on Zoom and we have drinks together. No, I'm just kidding. That would, sometimes we do need that, right, in this work? Thank you all for being here. I can't tell you how excited I am to see the energy in the chat, like was mentioned by Gloria, because I just think of like all of the amazing experiences I've had with Run so far, and I can't, after every Run event, my cheeks hurt from smiling so much. And I feel that vibe today, and my cheeks are gonna hurt after this panel discussion. So I'm so excited and thankful for that. What does it look like? How do we do it? We talk to each other. We listen to each other. It seems maybe for some a very far and distant goal to reach, but it's not. We all have a story to tell. We all have experiences, and it's about building collective power through relationship building, through trust, and through advocacy. It's about identifying the peoples and structures that are holding power, that create barriers and challenges for us to live out the dream that we have for ourselves, for our families, for our neighbors, and holding them accountable. And we do that together because it's not easy. We're not just one voice. We're millions of voices across the state. I've had the chance to meet so many residents from Sacramento region, from all across the state, and I'm so thankful for that. And one of the things that comes to mind is that having a safe, affordable, permanent place to live, what that can do for someone. A story comes to mind of a resident. Her name is Anna Davis. Not sure if she's on today. I hope she is. But if not, shout out Anna Davis. She's someone special to me, and everyone is, but she hopes we've had the chance to get really close because the relationship building goes beyond their trust and dreams. It also goes into like distance learning, right? The challenges that we're facing in an everyday life. And so building that connection also includes all of that. But she's someone who hadn't lived somewhere in one place for more than 8 years. She was at a mutual housing property for 8 years. And before that, she was moving from place to place. And so having a safe, affordable place to live not only opens up the opportunity for you to do whatever you want, have some peace of mind in your life, but also be able to advocate to make a change and to make this world a better place. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex, and thanks for those lovely introductory stories from our panel. Just a reminder, we are going to hopefully have time for questions at the end. So if you have one of those questions, pop it into the Q&A box. That's not the same as the chat. The chat is where we're just putting a bunch of exclamation points, apparently, and saying, hey. But if you have questions for us, you can put them in that chat box or in the Q&A box, sorry. So let's shift to this big question of what Run has been doing in the last 6 months. So if you're familiar with Run, or even if you saw the first couple of minutes of that video, you saw Run leaders gathering in the Capitol building, right? Maria met her assembly member by chasing him down the hallway. These are things that happen in a physical space together, right? When we have our meetings in the fall where we brainstorm what Run should be doing and what we think should be a law in California around housing called There Ought to Be a Law. Those are all meetings that happen in physical spaces, you know, where people get to know each other, where we like have a good time and put our brains together, right? We do those meetings usually twice a year, once in the fall to get ready for the legislative session, and then once in the winter in like February to prep everybody for Lobby Day. This year, our Lobby Day was scheduled for March 19th. Wah, wah. We had something like 89 legislative visits scheduled. All of those got canceled. And so we have had to figure out another way. And, you know, the Capitol was closed a few times at weird times. Bills got killed. Stuff happened that we did not expect at all. And we have tried to figure out how to do that, how to continue this really important work, even from our homes. So, Maria, can you tell us a little bit about how it's felt different this year?
Well, the way it's been different is we've been doing Zoom meetings weekly, you know, to discuss like what, you know, if everybody's okay for one, and then, you know, what we need to do, what we need to focus on, and how can we do this now that we're in this kind of environment where everything's online. It's a lot different. Like last week, 2 weeks, for like a week, 2 weeks, we were doing Zoom meetings with Brian Manchine, Todd Gloria, Ben Hueso here in San Diego County. And these phone calls had to be Zoom meetings. So Ben Hueso, we met with one of his people here in San Diego, but it's not like we were in the office sitting down talking, and it was a lot different. You know, and then Brian Manchine and Todd Gloria's people, we just saw a blank screen. We just heard them talk. We didn't see their actual faces. So we couldn't get a real feel on how they were feeling about certain things. You know, we couldn't see facial expressions. We couldn't see, you know, if they were listening to us, or if they walked to another part of the room where, you know, or paying attention to their child or animal or whatever. Or sometimes we'll have Zoom meetings and you could hear a baby crying in the background, or a dog barking, or, you know, usually we would meet together, like she said, in, you know, in a certain area, and it would be quiet and it would just be us. And seeing legislators, we were able to, like I said, see their facial expressions or what they do. Because I remember one time we went to go see a senator, I'm not going to say his name. We went to his office, and his intern, or whatever this young kid was, sat down with a piece of paper or a legal notepad, and that's all he was doing, was scribbling in the notepad, and I got to see it. So like I'm saying, with these Zoom meetings, we can't see what the other person's doing. So.
Yeah, and I guess the question is like, how long is this gonna last? Is it gonna be like—
Exactly, is this gonna be forever? Or, you know, are we gonna be able to do Lobby Day next year? I mean, I was supposed to take my daughter this year, and she was really looking forward to it, because she's been to a Lobby Day before, and she was looking forward to this year's, and nope, no Lobby Day.
Yeah, and it's a different feeling, right?
Yes.
It's wondering, hey, does my senator support this bill or not?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You can't tell, right?
Exactly, you can't tell.
Yeah. So thanks, Maria, for sharing that. Y'all have, as someone said in the chats, have been putting in the work. Despite the challenges that we have had this year, I'm wondering if Alex can maybe tell us a little bit about the nitty gritty of like, how exactly do you organize your residents to get them to these meetings like Maria had been going to?
It's tough. I mean, even before the pandemic, we weren't touching everyone. We weren't getting everyone. People have busy lives. Kids are growing up. They're in different activities. And now it's even tougher. There's obvious technical barriers. People have a lot going on. People have a lot to think about. And so at Mutual Housing, we're still continuing flyering as often as we can. We've taken on new tools that we might not have used as much as we did before. We use Zoom more. We have accounts now. We use Text Magic. We text people now. A lot more people are texting. We call a lot more. We do phone banking. We use Bitly accounts. That's not some Bitly links. We never use that as often. We make sure to put Bitly links and flyers. We use Google Forms a lot more now. But all of that is great and it works and they're amazing tools and they're good at what they do. But if it weren't for the relationships that we had built and the trust, the phone calls wouldn't be answered. The text messages, we wouldn't get responses. We wouldn't get people to actually put in a Bitly link into their phone or or their laptop. So we're making phone calls every day, checking in. And as Maria mentioned, Run had to switch things up. We didn't meet as often as we saw each other before, which is great. And so we get to have those conversations, check in with each other, and we've been able to hold that space to hold larger conversations about what's happening in the world. And I think that's so important because housing isn't just housing, it's so much more than that. And the different ways it encompasses the way people can live their lives the way they want wouldn't be able to happen without those greater conversations. So more community meetings on Zoom. So thankful for folks who have stepped outside their box. I don't think of myself as a millennial. I'm not a good millennial. I have to step out of my box so much into this tech world. And so for those of you that may be a few generations older than me, I commend you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alex. It's not easy. And I mean, you're sort of laughing about the technology, but like there's a real digital divide. And so like when we're talking about, you know, making sure that people can testify at legislative hearings, making sure that people can connect with each other, that somebody can attend, that has good enough Wi-Fi to be able to show up in a Zoom meeting, like all of these are real challenges. And in addition to people being able to have Wi-Fi so that their kids can go to school, right? So these are real. And at the same time, at the beginning of the pandemic, we said, look, we're just gonna keep this space. We're gonna meet once a week. We meet at this we meet at this time. We meet at 1 p.m. on Wednesdays. Anybody from the entire Run network can come to our community care calls. But we set aside real check-in time, right? So people are either talking to someone new or someone they know. And then we take action. And that's sort of how we've been able to keep it going. So I know, Tom, in the Central Valley, there have been major challenges for your people just getting by. Can you talk a little bit about what's been going on?
Sure, and I think it's important to recognize that the different Run in different areas, Run is at different stages. What they're doing, and Maria and the folks in San Diego area is amazing to me. And what clearly happened during the pandemic for us is that our resident service coordinators really switched from doing what I would call some of this Run organizing to just getting more into basic direct services, meaning trying to connect with folks, what kind of challenges that they have, trying to make sure that we're connected with people to be able to support them in any way that we can and work together to solve whatever challenges that they had. And the Run leaders became essential immediately in that, because they became great connectors for people on our sites who either weren't talking with us, even though we were trying to do whatever outreach we could electronically and by other means, and they could knock on a door, or, hey, I know Gladys, I can, let me check in with her. And so that has been so important to connect with folks. We were able to raise just about $500,000 to help people directly with direct financial assistance during the pandemic. And I would say the Run leaders were essential in helping us identify folks that were really struggling. We also knew folks were struggling simply because they may not be talking to us this month and the rent didn't come in, or they came in partially. And so we've spent a lot of time doing outreach to those folks. I would say that we really firmly believe that that role for the Run leadership and local leaders is going to make it much easier to do the organizing around housing issues in the future, because those connections are really important, and the leadership development, just that's involved just with that that process has been amazing.
Thanks, Tom. I think Gloria's gonna pick up on that a little bit in talking about this relationship between developers and residents and nonprofit organizations like EBHO in the bigger picture context of like how developers are able to keep the lights on and how residents are able to stay with a roof over their head.
Yeah, thank you, Tori, and thanks, Tom. And you know, we've just mentioned a number of the challenges that come with organizing during this time, which is totally true. But I think one of the things that's been very powerful to see is that because our organizers, I can't take that credit, I got to give it to our organizers and our leaders, have built these relationships over the years. We've actually integrated residents in other pieces of our work that have kept going during shelter in place. And so we now have 3 residents on our board of directors. I'm very pleased that, you know, I mentioned this affordable housing bond that we helped win a couple of years ago. Now there's an affordable housing oversight committee that's meeting through the county. And I'm very pleased that Daphne Lamparellia, who's on the Zoom today, is a co-commissioner with me on that. And so, you know, it's not an EBHO RCOP thing, but she's still doing her, you know, doing her civic engagement through that. And I'm so proud to serve with her. So we've been excited to have people, now they've filtered into other parts of the organization and other parts of the work, which is really great. And we got to figure out how to keep that going during this time. I saw someone in the Q&A was like, what do? Do you call people more? I mean, absolutely. We had to call people before this. I can't even get nonprofit developers who are in front of their computer all day to do a thing with a mass email. You still got to pick up the phone and be like, I know you saw that email. You know, all the same traditional organizing strategies, we have to do those and more. But the one spin that I just wanted to share, what I think Tori was getting at, is something maybe heartening that I've started to hear, and I hope that these stories will come out, and I hope this is a trend, is that when I have called some of our senior resident leaders just to see how they're doing, they've actually been doing okay because they are connected with their community that EBHO and Run helped to create, but certainly not just us, because they are living in service-enriched affordable housing where, sure, things are not always perfect, things happen. But I've been talking to, you know, one of our resident leaders, Karen, was like, oh, you know, I'm good. They drop toilet paper outside of my door once a week to make sure I'm stocked. They're calling me. I'm okay. This is hard, but I'm okay. And that's kind of the theme I've been hearing. And to me, it is such a powerful story that I hope our Run leaders will amplify, that guess what? Affordable housing works. During a pandemic, people are in place. People are not like, is my landlord going to evict me? People maybe weren't as much on the razor's edge to begin with because they weren't paying 60, 70% of their income for rent. So they're there and they're going to be there. And that to me is such a compelling story that I hope that we bring out as we keep doing this organizing, whatever the future looks like.
Thanks, Gloria. And I think I just want to reinforce that, right? That affordable housing is stabilizing for people. It builds community. People are building communities and have been building community. We're keeping that community going. Alex is helping keep that community going. through all of the work that Mutual is doing. Like Maria is reaching out to people. That's how we keep this going, right? And I just want to, we're a statewide organization, right? We're working to bring people together from 7 different regions in a very large state. And I think part of what drew me to this work is that I love being able to say, oh, there's people not just where I live who are fighting for the same thing as me. Like, oh, there's people in LA doing this. Oh, there's people in Fresno doing this, and how powerful that is. And that's happening in communities all over the state, communities of affordable housing residents. So we're gonna move to the next phase of our conversation, which is all the good juicy stuff, because our work is not easy. And there are hard questions that we have to look at, especially looking ahead to 2021. I mean, we just came off of a wild ride of a legislative session that ended with some complicated stuff, which we are still trying to figure out who's got what rights and what the law is. So I guess I'm gonna ask maybe some tougher questions of our panel here. And so I'm gonna start with Tom. Tom in the hot seat first. Tom, as you look ahead to the next 6 months, what kind of hard decisions do you expect to have to make?
Yeah, so it is, you know, while the reason we do this work is to serve people and give them opportunities for great places to live, if we haven't, as affordable housing sponsors, if we haven't been anxiously awaiting how many rents have been paid the 10th of each month, and then the 15th of each month, and then the 20th of each month, we haven't really been doing all of our job. Because there has been a lot of anxiety around that. All of us have obligations. We're nonprofit organizations. We have obligations to investors. We have obligations to lenders. We have obligations to the people who live at our sites to keep them maintained in a way that make them great places to live. So we have all of those stakeholders. And if we are not getting the kinds of revenues that we need, we are going to be, at some level, there's going to be stress on organizations and stress on the housing that we've created. So it is, the financial realities are there. I am amazed. It's what we talk about when we get together as developers all the time. How you doing on your rents? How's that going? It also points to the need for a real rental assistance program, likely from the federal government, and to the extent that RUN can be instrumental in advocating for that, I think that's going to be essential. And I would just say one word about eviction, just because it has been a hot topic and we have had some recent movement and a compromise that I guess, you know, not everybody was happy with every aspect of what came out of those debates, certainly at the state level. But I know that for us, we had, we're not in this business to evict people. We're in the business to house people. But occasionally, some folks, you know, break the rules. They, frankly, occasionally everybody else in the complex wants them out. And if, you know, and if they're breaking the rules, having nothing to do with the pandemic. And so the use of that tool in drastic cases is an essential one. And I think it's an essential one that's in the best interest of everybody, not just the owner or sponsor of the housing, but also the residents.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, this isn't cut and dried, right? And I see a bunch of heads nodding. Gloria, can you speak a little bit to this interesting place that EBHO and RUN is in working with both developers and residents?
Yeah, sure, Tori. And I'm glad to follow up with Tom because we work with mission-driven developers, we work with residents, we work with advocates who are none of the above, we work with local governments. And that means that we and the leaders who work with us really get to see all of these very difficult trade-offs. And we're very clear that, you know, we're spending a ton of time right now working on eviction moratoria, working on protections. We're very clear this is 100% essential, and so are all of our members. And at the same time, as Tom mentioned, there are some hard truths. Here's another truth I'm going to throw out there, which is that we talk all the time about how affordable housing residents need affordable housing. Very true. But let's be real, nonprofit affordable housing developers need residents. They need residents to pay their rent. And they need residents to come and advocate so that they can keep doing what they do. And so, Tom referred before, he said, well, from a selfish perspective, I would actually tweak that and say from a self-interested perspective. Those of us who study organizing know that organizing is actually based on self-interest, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You have to figure out what is someone's interest that's going to motivate them to get involved. And the interest of nonprofit developers, of course, is to house people, and so to get the money and the political juice to keep doing that. But whether it's neighborhood opposition or whether it is local elected officials who frankly do not want to hear from the same nonprofit developer faces again, especially given that the faces at the top, frankly, often do not reflect the diversity of the neighborhoods that they serve. It is in the interest of everyone to have other people telling that story and telling it directly and telling it authentically. And that may not always be pretty, but it's still really, really important. The other thing I want to say is that, a major theme of this whole week has been racial equity and has been, infusing diversity, equity, inclusion into all of the work that we do. And for developers and organizations who are serious about that, if you are not engaging with the people, truly engaging with the people who live in your buildings, you are not doing that DEI work, period. Because how can you claim to be deeply engaging if you're not in that back and forth, if you're not allowing yourselves to be held accountable? And it is really tough. We're all in the middle of the journey with it. But I would say is when those tough questions come up, like what the example Tom was giving, like an example I've heard about in Oakland where there are residents of an affordable housing building who are pressuring their city council member to evict somebody else in that affordable housing property who was a problem before COVID came along. And the city council members and the developers are like, there's an eviction moratorium. We cannot and will not evict this person. And it's really dicey, right? When those dicey situations come up, or when EBHO is in a situation where we're working with coalition partners and the coalition partners say, 100% of this huge development should be affordable housing. And it should all be for deeply, all be extremely low income. And we have to say, well, actually practitioners know that 100% maybe isn't feasible here. Let's talk about what is. When you have those questions, you are in a better place of trust if you have shown that you are doing the equity work and you have shown that you are genuinely engaging with all constituents. And that's where EBHO has been. We've sometimes had to tell some hard truths, but our community partners know that we've been organizing folks. They know that we have leaders in East Oakland and West Oakland and downtown. It doesn't make it easier, but it does show that you are walking the talk. So I guess that's just my charge. If you really believe that you are representing communities most affected, you're gonna get into difficult issues like policing or anything else where, guess what? Residents don't have a monolithic point of view. You're not gonna be able to get at that unless you actually talk with people living in those homes.
100%. If you are on staff at a developer and you are thinking about this stuff and you're like, oh yeah, it's time for us to talk the talk, walk the walk. There will be lots of resources at the end about how to get involved with Run, or you can also just contact me. So I want to pass it back to Alex to speak a little bit about like how 2020 in all of its many surprises, you might call them, has reinforced why we need resident organizing.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better than I think all the stuff that Gloria touched on, which I think was just, she did a perfect job. And one thing I did want to add to that as well is like those folks, the developers that are listening, is really making space for staff to dedicate that time for relationship building. Because if you don't give your staff that time and that position to do that, it's just not, it's not going to work as well as you want it to. How is it resident organizing? You know, if our country wasn't stratified the way that it is, we wouldn't have affordable housing. We wouldn't all be here together. Maybe we wouldn't know each other, maybe we would. But I think everyone, or a lot of folks in this room, have probably heard how COVID-19 has really, really opened up our eyes at how the wealth gap is expanding in our country. And there's folks in power that are using their voices, are using their money to make the change that they want to see for those that are giving them money, for those that are in power. And so without being able to be in person and to be able to go into like a lobby visit, how do we make sure that our voices are heard? How do we make sure to say like, hey, I'm here, I've worked hard my whole life, I've gone to school, or I have a family, I have kids that want better for their, I want better for their future, is that we need to speak up. And it's a term that I think has been maybe overused, but collective power is really, it's so important. And I think we're gonna look back on this time in history and be, what did you do during this time? Did you join a Zoom meeting? Did you sign a petition? Did you share a post? And I'd like to think that I'm going to be able to look back and say, I really tried to do something with the people that I care about. And I think it's for history, for our people, for today, for tomorrow. It's important. And just because part of the work that I do, I'm a voter, I always make sure to reference back about why our communities, why are the people that I talk to every day, why don't they want to vote? Why are they apathetic? And it's not there because it's there on purpose. A lot of our communities, myself included, as a Latinx who barely made it to college because I myself experienced being without a home, I'm not supposed to want to vote. I'm supposed to be too caught up with the everyday challenges and barriers that have been placed on top of me. And so I can't do it on my own. I can't do it on my own. I need all of your help. And I think that's the way we're going to do it. And that's why it's so important that we keep building this power during this time.
100%, all of that. Thank you, Alex. I want to ask Maria to follow up with that. Maria, why does it feel important to you to keep doing all of this with Run, you know, even amidst all of the absurdly hard things happening in California?
Because it's important. You know, we shouldn't give up just because of a pandemic, just because, you know, they're telling us to stay home. You know, we need to use our voices. You know, I remember one time we had a city council member come from the city of Poway to our apartment complex, and he thought, oh, when I heard affordable housing coming to Poway, I was thinking Cabrini Green. And I'm like, I'm from Chicago and I know what Cabrini Green looks like, and this isn't Cabrini Green. This is affordable housing. This is family. This is, we stick by one another. We help one another. You know, like she was saying her story about that lady, you know, somebody needs toilet paper, you know, I have a closet full of toilet paper I could donate. You know, we don't want to keep our voices quiet, because then legislators and stuff will be like, oh, well, Run's quiet now. You know, they're not going to bother us right now because of the pandemic, and you know, they're all living in affordable housing, so they're just going to keep quiet because a lot of them don't have internet or whatever the case may be. But surprise, here we are. We're still talking about it, you know. Every time I see a city council member at the grocery store, are you still for affordable housing, Maria? Yes, I am. I'll be there till the day I die. You know, no pandemic's going to stop us.
Yeah, and Maria, you've also talked about, like, and you mentioned this a little bit before, like the bonds that you have with other Run members and other people.
Yes, we're family
in your area.
Yes, we're family. You know, we look out for one another. Like I said, even the ones that, you know, have left Run or whatever for whatever medical reasons or family reasons or whatever the reasons may be, they're still our family. We still look out for them. We still take care of them. We'll call them to see, how are you doing? Do you need anything? you know, and they're there if we need extra help, like extra people getting on the phone or whatever. They'll be there to do that.
That's what this is. That's how you get there, right?
Yes.
Also, like the point of this, right?
Yes.
There's making change, there's fighting together, and there's also like supporting each other through all of this.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just want to point out a comment that Gloria just said. Gloria, do you want to just say that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Maria was talking about, you know, if you all haven't heard of Cabrini Green or Pruitt-Igoe, there's these places that, oh, it's going to be like that. First of all, for people who probably have never actually set foot across the threshold of a low-income community or public housing. But secondly, like these are places that, you know, were allowed purposely to fall into disrepair and suffered from disinvestment because the powers that be did not care about housing poor folks, or specifically housing poor Black and brown people. And so of course, those places were challenged and had disinvestment and then were used as examples for why we shouldn't invest. So I had to drop that little history right there.
Thank you. So we've got a bunch of questions and we've got 6 minutes. We're not going to get to all of them, but maybe we can do 1 or 2 maybe. And I also want to make sure that people know, before we do anything else, I actually want to make sure that people get a chance to get the contact information for all of our RUN regional organizing coordinators across the state. So I'm going to drop this in the chat right now. Okay, this is going to be a little weird in the chat, but it's fine. If you want more information about RUN in your area, look at the chat right now. There's everybody's contact information. There is a person for almost every part of California who you can reach out to learn more about this. And that is their job to make sure that you understand how you and people you know can be a part of RUN. If you want to just hit me up, you can hit me up too. My email is in there as well. But if you're in the East Bay, check in with Dolores. If you're in Sacramento, check at Evo. If you're in Sacramento, check in with Alex. If you're in LA, your person is Chris. If you're in the Inland Empire, where we are growing, we are also, job announcement, we are working on hiring a regional organizing coordinator in the Inland Empire. Maybe that is you. Maybe that is someone you know who would be great at it. In the Central Valley, Alexander de la Campa at CCRH is our rock there. In San Diego, we have the lovely Mersa. And in Orange County, we have Isuri. So I hope I didn't forget anybody. We have actual real people who you can reach out to who are dedicated to this work, and they're there to have a conversation and to build power in your region so that we can make sure that all of those legislators are saying yes to affordable housing come 2021. We are also going to have our regional convenings coming up in the very end of September and the beginning of October. So guess what? The timing is great. You can come to one of those convenings yourself if you're new, or you can bring a whole bunch of residents from your area to those regional convenings. They're fun. They get everybody brainstorming. We're thinking about 2021 and like what to do. So holler between now and then, you will get all of that information. And the easy thing that you can do is to join our email list. You can go to Housing California, to our website, and you can find the little RUN tab. And we send out one email every single Monday, except for this Monday and Labor Day. But we send out an email every Monday with sort of an update about what's going on and a focus for the week. And then all of our information about our weekly community care call, which happens at 1 p.m. on Wednesdays, every single Wednesday, mostly. And upcoming regional convenings and events that are happening. And just also there's a section about news you can use to help everybody figure out what the heck is going on with housing in California around affordable housing. So go sign up for the newsletter, contact me if you want to chat, contact your regional organizing coordinator, come to the community care calls on Wednesdays and reach out, because that's what we're here for, okay? Okay, I think we have time for one question. Eek. Maybe, oh, this is a great question. Okay. Ann Chen is asking, have you found any effective strategies to reach out to your constituents who do not have internet and or don't speak English? Do phone calls work better or text messages? That's a great question. Who would like to go for it?
I can start it off. So folks who don't have internet, is that the question?
Or who are non-native English speakers?
Okay, so flyers have always worked best for us because we have certain communities who are our specific. For example, we have in North Sacramento, we have a property that is primarily Russian and Ukraine speaking. And so flyers usually are the best way. Of course, we have a staff member who speaks the languages that are needed there, and that's so, so important. So, I mean, really staffing up for the communities, the languages that they speak is so, so important. And even if we can't get stuff in their language, which most of the time we do try because each of the staff members are translating all of the flyers, but it's hopefully they know someone who can translate it. And so that's usually our best way around that. And the other one is text messaging. I find that some people are scared to ask for help, but most aren't. And so they'll ask their cousin, their child, their neighbor to help them text back or read the text message. And the other part is leaning on your resident leaders, because I'm a whole level away from it. I don't live in these communities, and I can only have so much self-interest in that. And so the leaders, they know how to communicate with each other in their neighborhoods. They're still at some places, they're still having Friday nights. They're sitting outside and, you know, distanced apart with their mask, and they're still talking about what's going on in their communities. And so really depending on the community leaders, I think, is another part of that. But texting and flyers, I think, has been good.
Thank you, Alex. We've got to wrap up. Thank you so much to this panel. I've got a quick announcement. Don't forget to explore tomorrow's deep dive learning labs on topics like discrimination, service providers and developers in the trenches, acquisition and rehab, with Carol Fife, I believe, from Oakland, who's amazing, and disability inclusive housing. So really good stuff coming to you tomorrow. We're going to see you again at 3 for our keynote address with Glenn Harris, who's the president of Race Forward. And you can also say hello to possibly some of these people in the final networking activity, Housers at Home. If you want to go to that, go back to the big room, and there'll be there's a flyer in the WordCast big room, okay? Massive round of applause for everybody who is here, for everybody who's a Run resident and Run leader, doing a powerful work across the state to make sure that everybody has a safe, stable, and affordable place to call home. Bye, everyone.